Princess Diana passing away wasn't an accident at all. With Queen Elizabeth recently passing away, Princess Diana has been trending everywhere because had she not passed away, she would have been queen right now. I'm your host Michaela, and today we are going to walk you through the life of the one, the only Princess Diana. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1st and was the fourth of 5 children born to John Spencer, the 8th Earl Spencer of his first wife Frances Ruth Roch. The Spencers then separated when Diana was 6, but the divorce wasn't final until 1969, following a child custody battle won by her father. In later years, her younger brother Charles blames the split on the loss of their first son John, who passed away within hours of his birth in 1960. When she was 9, she was enrolled at Riddlesworth Hall, which is an all-girls boarding school in Norfolk. Diana then later joined her older sister Jane and Sarah at Westheath Girls' School in Kent, where she showed talent in music and sports but not academics. Later, she failed her O-level exams twice, then left without the equivalent of a high school diploma. When she was 13 years old, she was given the title of Lady after her grandfather passed away and her father inherited the title Earl of Spencer and the Althorp estate. In 1977, Diana met future husband Prince Charles, who at the time was dating her older sister Sarah. Later in 1980, he took her sailing on a royal yacht and invited her to Balmoral, his family's Scottish retreat, to meet his family. In January of 1981, tabloids reported a premarital liaison between Charles and Diana. Prince Philip wrote a letter to his son urging him to either propose or end the relationship, and Charles interpreted it as an order to propose. Later on February 24th, 1981, Charles and Diana went public with their engagement, and Diana showed her famous sapphire and diamond ring. On the night she moves out of her London apartment, her protective officer warns her, "I just want you to know that this is your last night of freedom ever, and the rest of your life, so make the most of it." In March of that same year, Diana bucked royal practice by wearing a plunging black gown by Elizabeth's Emanuel for her first major post-engagement outing, which was criticized for being inappropriate. Afterwards, she was bothered by media reports that she still has an ounce or two of puppy fat, further inflaming her resurgent eating disorder. Less than a month after her 20th birthday, Diana then married Charles at St. Paul's Cathedral. Then on November 5th, 1981, the palace announced Diana was pregnant with her first child. In January of 1982, Diana fell down a staircase at Sandringham at the end of her first trimester, which she later admitted was a deliberate cry for attention from Charles. Later in June of that same year, the couple's first child, Prince William Arthur Philip Louis, was born at London's St. Mary's Hospital, where his own children were also born 3 decades later. Together with Charles, Diana and 9-month-old son William embarked on their first royal tour together to Australia and New Zealand. The couple's second son, Prince Henry Charles Albert David, aka Harry, was then born on September 15th, 1984. Charles, who wanted a girl, complains it's a boy and he's even got red hair. Diana later told biographer Andrew Morton, "Something inside me closed off, killing whatever love she had left for him and cementing her belief. Charles had gone back to his lady, Camilla Parker Bowles." Back in April 1987, at the peak of homophobia and fear of AIDS, Diana shook hands with a man suffering from the disease without gloves at London's Middlesex Hospital. Her gesture was later described by journalist Judy Wade as the most important thing a royal's done in 200 years, because it helped to dispel the misconception that the then fatal illness could be transmitted by casual contact. During a 40th birthday party for Camilla Parker Bowles' sister in 1989, Diana dismissed her husband and confronted her rival about her ongoing affair with Charles. "I would just like you to know that I know exactly what is going on," Diana told Camilla, warning her to not treat the princess like an idiot. In tapes that would later compromise Andrew Morton's biography, Diana, her true story in her own words, the princess counts it as one of her bravest moments. Then in March of 1992, Diana's father, John Spencer, passed of a heart attack in London. Diana opposed Charles's offers to accompany her back from their Austrian ski vacation, believing him to be using her grief for a public relations coup. However, the palace overruled her. Then the month after Britain's Sun newspaper had revealed the Squidgygate tapes, alleged to be from a years-old phone conversation with alleged lover James Gilby, who referred to Diana by Squidgy, a pet name he uttered dozens of times throughout the recording. Prime Minister John Major had later informed Parliament in 1992 of the official separation of the Prince and the Princess of Wales. Diana then announced in 1993 her plan to retire from public life. BBC's news magazine then aired an interview with Diana at Kensington Palace on November 5th, 1995, which had been planned and carried out in secrecy. During the conversation, she discusses her past struggles with depression, bulimia, and self-inflicted injuries, and admits to her own infidelities. But her most famous quote was in regards to the love triangle with her ex-husband and his longtime love Camilla Bowles. "Well, there were 3 of us in the marriage, so it was a bit crowded." Later in August of 1996, the terms of the royal divorce were finalized. Diana was awarded a lump sum settlement of $22.5 million in cash, as well as about $600,000 a year to maintain her private office, in addition to receiving permission to continue living in their Kensington Palace apartments, and she agreed to give up any future claim of being queen, with her net worth of $25 million. However, she was stripped of the title Her Royal Highness and was henceforth referred to as Diana, Princess of Wales, seen as a petty move on part of the palace. Now comes the sad part. On August 30th, 1997, 1947, Diana and her new lover Dottie departed Paris's Ritz-Carlton Hotel after dinner to spend the night at his apartment. Their said to be intoxicated driver Henry Paul, later found to be 3 times over the legal limit, raced through the Pont de la Ama tunnel in an attempt to outrun the paparazzi. Shortly after midnight, he crashed their Mercedes into a cement pylon, ending his and Dottie's life instantly. Diana and her bodyguard Trevor were then taken to the hospital. The next day at the hospital, Diana unfortunately succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced deceased at 4 a.m. at age 36. Then on September 6th, millions around the world watched Diana's funeral procession and service at Westminster Abbey. Queen Elizabeth II even bowed at her funeral, which no one else did, and she was the queen, so you know that was something very special because she doesn't bow for just anybody. Later that day, her remains were transported home to her family's estate at Althorpe, where she was buried. The castle was covered in bouquets of flowers, even more than what was placed at the castle after the queen passed away, which happened just recently. These were the flowers left for the queen, and this photo you're looking at right now are bouquets of flowers left for Princess Diana. And with the queen passing away, if Princess Diana was still alive to this day, she would have been the queen consort. But that's what the official reports say. Now, what about the theories? I could talk legit all day about the Princess Diana theories, but we don't really have time for that today, unfortunately. There are many slightly varying theories based on the central premises, such as that rogue MI6 agents carried out the termination without their handler's knowledge. They say she was fed up with incessant press attention and intrusions into her private life, so Diana faked her passing. Paul, one of Diana's former butlers, says that the princess predicted her own passing in a car crash. Apparently, she was so scared 10 months before her passing, she wrote to Paul saying that there was a plot made by a member of the royal family and that her car's brakes would be tampered with and she would suffer serious head injuries. And all of this would be so that the Prince of Wales could marry again. Because in the royal family, one isn't supposed to divorce and remarry, so the only way it would be allowed is if she had passed away. The letter she wrote said, "I'm sitting here at my desk today in October, longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep strong and hold my head high. This particular phase of my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injuries in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy. Camilla is nothing but a decoy." Harry, Diana's son, had even done an interview a while back saying that he didn't want his wife Meghan to end up like his mother, so that's why they left the royal family. He said they won't stop until she dies, referring to the royal family won't stop until Meghan passes. Queen Elizabeth's husband or third cousin, Prince Philip, lived a long life, and with the Queen's recent passing today, we're going to talk about her husband who passed away last year, Prince Philip. My name is Michaela and this is The Rich Life, and make sure to hit that subscribe button because it really helps us out and lets us know you're enjoying our content, and while you're at it, maybe hit the notification bell too. But enough of that, let's get on with the video. On June 10th, 1921, Prince Philip was born in Corfu, on the dining room table of the Villa Monrepos. He is the son of HRH Prince Andrew of Greece and Princess Alice of Battenberg, the nephew of King Constantine I of Greece and a great-great-grandson of Queen Victoria. When King Constantine I was forced to step down, the family fled to Paris in a Royal Navy ship, with the infant Philip carried in an orange box. The family then settled into the suburb of St. Cloud. Prince Philip attended the Seme School in Surrey, living with his grandmother Princess Victoria, at Kensington Palace, and with his uncle George Mountbatten in Berkshire. In 1930, Prince Andrew and Princess Alice's marriage broke up. Alice was then sent to an asylum supposedly suffering from schizophrenia. In 1934, Philip was then enrolled at the Scottish school Gornston, to which he met the future Queen Elizabeth II for the first time at the wedding of one of his cousins to the Duke of Kent. In April of 1939, Philip started at the Royal Navy College at Dartmouth, where he would go on to be named the quote, best cadet. On the eve of war in July that same year, Philip and Princess Elizabeth met again at Dartmouth during a royal family visit. Philip was asked by his uncle Lord Mountbatten to play escort to the future Queen Elizabeth, and a romance between them blossomed. With Britain at war in 1940, Philip joined the Royal Navy, serving as a midshipman on HMS Ramillies, posted to the Indian Ocean. In 1942, Philip was promoted to First Lieutenant, second in command of the warship HMS Wallace, at just 21 years old. On December 3rd, 1944, his father Prince Andrew passed away with no money, being very poor in Monte Carlo. With the war over in late 1946, Elizabeth and Philip became secretly engaged. The king was said to be withholding his formal approval until Elizabeth's 21st birthday, which they actually started dating when he was 18 and she was 13, so I don't know why he wanted to wait. In 1947, Philip renounced his Greek and Danish royal titles and became a naturalized Briton, changing his surname from Schleswig, Holstein, Sonderburg, Glucksburg to Mountbatten, adopted from his mother's side of the family. Good thing you changed it, because that was a mouthful. Finally, on July 9th, 1947, the engagement of Philip and Elizabeth was announced. Later that same year, on November 20th, Philip and Elizabeth were married at Westminster Abbey. The The current king at the time then gave Philip the title the Duke of Edinburgh. Then on November 14th, 1948, Prince Charles Philip Arthur George was born. Philip actually played squash with his equerry during the labor of his child and had brought Elizabeth champagne and carnations when it was all over. Then 2 years later, on August 15th, Princess Anne was born. In 1951, Philip went on to indefinitely leave from the Navy due to the king's declining health. On February 6, 1952, Philip was awoken in the night while in Kenya to be told that King George VI had unfortunately passed away at Sandringham. He then woke his wife to tell her the news. Elizabeth, who was 25 at the time, then succeeds her father to the throne. Then on June 2, 1953, the coronation of Elizabeth took place at Westminster Abbey. In 1956, Philip then launched the Duke of Edinburgh's awards scheme to encourage outdoor activities for young people. In 1957, Philip was made a Prince of the United Kingdom by his wife, Queen Elizabeth. However, Philip stayed with the name Prince Philip because normally when people would hear the word king and queen, they would assume the king is higher, but that wasn't the case. Queen Elizabeth was higher up, so Philip had to stay with the name Prince Philip for his whole life. Then on February 19, 1960, Prince Andrew was born. And then 4 years later, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth's fourth and final child, Prince Edward, was born. Philip's mother, Alice, then passed away at age 84 on December 5th of 1969, having spent her final years living at Buckingham Palace. In 1980, Philip decided to prove that he's still a keen sportsman in spite of his age, and was part of the British team which won the four-in-hand carriage driving World Championships at Windsor. Prince Philip accompanied the Queen, speaking to the crowds outside of Buckingham Palace on September 5th, 1997, and viewing Princess Diana's coffin at St. James's Palace, following criticism of the royal family's response to her passing on August 31st the same year after the tragic accident. Then in 2002, letters between Prince Philip and the late Princess Diana were published. Former royal butler Paul Burrell leaked letters reported to have been exchanged between Prince Philip and Diana that show he supported her over Charles in the divorce. At the time, the Sunday's Time reported that Philip was attempting to block publication of the letters, which had suggested that they are authentic. Highlights from Philip's alleged letters to Diana, signed Fondest Love, Pa, released originally to the Daily Mail, include, quote, "I cannot imagine anyone in their right mind leaving you for Camilla. Charles was silly to risk everything with Camilla for a man in his position. We never dreamed he might feel like leaving you for her. Such a prospect never even entered our heads." Of course, not everything revealed in the supposed letters was positive. At one point, Philip allegedly wrote to Diana asking, quote, "Can you honestly look into your heart and say that Charles' relationship with Camilla had nothing to do with your behavior towards him in your marriage? In other words, isn't it kind of your fault he cheated on you?" Yikes. Prince Charles then married Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005 at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. The Queen and Prince Philip were, however, not in attendance like they were when he first married Princess Diana, but did, however, attend the church blessing afterwards. A newspaper reported in 2006 that Philip is revered as a god by 400 tribespeople in the South Pacific. The Yaohanan people on the Vanuatu island of Tana Treasure signed portraits of the prince and had sent him a traditional pig slaying club, with which he happily posed for a photograph. Then in 2008, Philip, aged 86 at the time, gave everyone quite a scare with spending almost a week in King Edward VII's hospital where he was being treated for a chest infection, and doctors didn't think he was going to pull through at the time, but thankfully he did. On June 11th, 2011, Prince Philip turned 90 and celebrated with the Queen, or his wife, bestowing the title of Lord High Admiral to mark the very special occasion. Then later that year, Philip was taken to the hospital after suffering from severe chest pains. Doctors then had diagnosed a blocked artery, and he had a stent fitted, which is a metal or plastic tube that gets inserted into the lumen of an automatic vessel or duct to keep the passageway open, henceforth saving his life. However, due to the surgery, he had to miss the Christmas celebration at Sandringham with the family. Then in the year of 2012, the prince chose to go against the doctor's orders that he rest and went with the rest of the royal family to a New Year's Day church service. In June later that year, Philip missed a concert at Buckingham Palace during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations after being taken to hospital again, but this time it was for a bladder infection. He eventually got better but was then taken back to the hospital in August that same year when the bladder infection reoccurred. Then almost a year later, Philip had exploratory surgery on his abdomen. Buckingham Palace said at the time, quote, "His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh has been admitted to the London clinic for an exploratory operation following abdominal investigations. He is expected to stay in hospital for up to 2 weeks. Further updates will be issued when appropriate." Then in 2017, Philip finally retired from all official public duties at the age of 96. In early 2019, the Duke was involved in a car crash near the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. His car flipped over as he pulled out of a driveway and collided with another car. He later apologized to the driver and said he had not seen her because of the quote, bright sunshine. Near the end of 2019, he spent 4 nights at King Edward VII's hospital, where he was treated for a quote, pre-existing condition and was later discharged on Christmas Eve. In 2020, the Queen and Duke released a photograph to mark his birthday. This was the first time he was seen publicly since leaving the hospital 6 months earlier. Then in February of 2021, the Duke was admitted to the hospital as a precautionary measure. Then on April 9th, the royal family then announced the sad news that the Duke of Edinburgh had passed away at age 99. All that was said in regards to his passing at the time was that he had passed away peacefully that morning at Windsor Castle. Prince Philip's passing came following a 28-day stay in hospital for an infection, which included a procedure for a pre-existing heart condition. However, when his deceased certificate was issued, it confirmed there was no specific cause aside from being just elderly. A statement issued by the royal family at the time said that Her Majesty the Queen was announcing with deep sorrow the passing of her beloved husband. In addition to his loved ones in the royal family, which include Prince Charles, Prince Andrew, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward, he left behind a legacy of philanthropy powered by his $30 million net worth. In 1952, when Elizabeth had become queen, Philip essentially became her consort, assisting in royal duties that included attending state dinners, world tours, and openings of parliament. It was, however, reported that he earned $500,000 annually in that role. He also continued to receive these funds even after he retired back in 2017.
Today we're going to be talking about Princess Anne. Princess Anne is a British princess who has a net worth of $10 million. Princess Anne is the only daughter, second child of the late Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Earlier on in her life, she was an award-winning horse rider and became the first British royal to compete in the Olympics. In her royal activities, Anne was the patron of more than 300 organizations, with her charity work largely focused on the areas of science, education, health, sports, and disability. Princess Anne was born as Anne Elizabeth Alice Louise on August 15, 1950 in London, England, during the reign of her maternal grandfather, King George VI. She was born the second child and lone daughter of Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Edinburgh, and Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Her mother would then go to become Queen Elizabeth II in a few years. Anne's older brother is King Charles. Growing up, Anne was looked after and educated by her governess, Catherine Peebles. She later attended Burnenden School in Kent, finishing in 1968 with 2 A levels and 6 GCE O levels. In the 70s, Anne became a celebrated horse rider. Earlier in the decade, she finished 4th at the Rush Hall Horse Trials and won gold in the individual event at the European Eventing Champion in Burghley. Additionally, Anne competed as part of the British evening team, winning a silver medal in the European Eventing Championship team event in 1975. She also won silver in the individual event that same year. Subsequently, in 1976, Anne rode as part of the British team as the Summer Olympics in Montreal, but unfortunately, she suffered a concussion midway through the course. Following the riding career, Anne served as the president of the Fédération Esquateur International from 1986 to 1994. As a royal, Anne has undertaken various duties on behalf of her mother. She had her first public engagement in 1969, when she appeared to the opening of the Educational and Training Centre in Shropshire, England. Anne soon began traveling around the world, visiting such countries as Norway, Germany, Austria, Jamaica, New Zealand, and Australia. In 1990, she became the first member of the British royal family to make an official visit to the USSR. Anne has also been involved with hundreds of charitable organizations over her decades of service. One of her most notable partnerships has been with the Save the Children, which she served as president from 1970 to 2017. Anne has visited the group's project throughout the world in places including Bangladesh, Mozambique, Ethiopia, and South Africa. In honor of her work, she earned a nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Among the other notable engagement, Anne is a patron of the WISE campaign. She has patronage in such other organizations as St. Andrew's First Aid, TransAid British Universities and College Sport, the Royal Nations Children Foundation, Aerospace Bristol, Citizen Advice, and Townsmen Guilds. From 1973 to 2001, Anne served as the president for BAFTA. During that time in 1985, she became the president of the Riding for the Disabled Associations. Later in 2011, Anne succeeded in her father as the Chancellor of the University of Edinburgh. She also became the president of 2 of the other groups, including the Royal Society of Arts and the Commonwealth Study Conference. In 1978, Anne was the victim of an attempted kidnapping by a man named Ian Ball. Coming back from a charity event, she and her party were held up by Ball at gunpoint. After a scuffle in which a number of people were shot, a passerby and former boxer named Ron Russell punched Ball in the head and helped Anne escape the scene. Ball was ultimately caught, arrested, and convicted of attempted murder and kidnapping. Anne has a reputation for being reliable, upstanding, and hardworking. However, the media has also disparaged her on occasion for being supercilious and acerbic in a manner. Overall, though, Anne remains one of the most well-liked royals in the UK, earning the public's respect for the individualism and commitment to philanthropy. She's also noted for her timeless fashion sense and frequent recycling of garments. Anne is the only one of the few royal females to have worn a military uniform, and as a fashion icon, she appeared on the cover of British Vogue. promote. Among her other distinctions, Anne is the first member of the royal family to have been convicted of a crime, as she pleaded guilty in 2002 to violating the Dangerous Dog Acts of 1991. In late 1973, Anne married horse rider and Royal Lieutenant Mark Phillips, whom she had first met in 1968 at a party for horse enthusiasts. The couple has a son named Peter and a daughter named Zara. Anne and Philip announced their separation in 1989 and later divorced in 1992. Following the initial split, Anne began dating Royal Navy Commander Timothy Lawrence, whom she wed in 1992. This made her the first royal divorcee to remarry since the granddaughter of Queen Victoria in 1905. Princess Anne, the late Queen of Elizabeth's no-drama daughter, long known as the royal workhorse, has been the front and center of her mother's death, prompting many to wonder why we don't see her more often. The first reason is the media has not been as interested in her as they are in gossip about whatever the younger royals are up to, and the second is that Anne just likes to keep it that way. As the Princess Royal, she's more known for her work and doesn't gossip or self-promote. Instead, she does her job with a minimum of fuss, showing up month after month, year after year, cutting ribbons, visiting charities, opening hospitals, attending meetups, unveiling plaques, and so forth. Anne is one of those royals who takes her great-grandmother Queen Mary's famous dictum seriously. When Queen Elizabeth II died at the Highlands Castle in Scotland at age 96, Anne, who was very close to her mother, was there with her brother Charles, a woman who rarely displays her emotions. But she carries on, escorting the Queen's coffin home through the days of the ceremonies in Scotland and in London leading up to the funeral. Now there's pictures and videos of Anne. The former Olympic athlete, previously known for her poker face, evoked sympathy and admiration for her fortitude. She also made history for the first royal woman to march in the funeral procession and stand vigil by the Queen's coffin with her brothers. Now there's no expectation that she will be more prominent in the reign of her brother King Charles III, but she might even be returning to the status of Counselor of State for one of the top 5 royals delegated to step in if the king is incapacitated or abroad. Then her grandfather George VI died unexpectedly in 1952 and her mother became queen, taking the new duties and responsibilities. Her younger brother Prince Andrew was born in 1960 and the youngest brother Prince Edward was born in 1964, so she and Charles are much older than her siblings. Anne, whose first official engagement took place when she was 18, and she's regularly the top royal when it comes to carrying out hundreds of official engagements even during the height of the pandemic. In 2021, she was named the year's hardest working royal with 387 engagements, followed closely by her brother. She approached her royal role briskly like her father, the late Prince Philip. She shows up for her engagements well aware, is curious and direct about whatever she's doing, takes notes, shakes hands, and usually charms all. She's widely considered smart. Anne is the 16th in line to the throne, even though she was the second of the late Queen Elizabeth's 4 children. That's because she was born before a new law that passed in 2013, changing the rules for succession so that it's meant based on the birth order, not gender, known as male primogeniture. Under the previous rules, dated back to 1701, brothers superseded sisters in succession even if sisters were born first. The result is that Anne and her 2 children and her 5 grandchildren are far back in line and have largely escaped the withering spotlight trained to the top heirs of their succession, Prince William, Prince Harry, and their 5 children. So why isn't Anne the Counselor of State like she used to be? If the sovereign can't carry out official duties due to illness or absence abroad, 2 or more of 5 counselors of state are appointed to the active sovereign's place. By law, the 5 counselors must include sovereign spouses and the next 4 people in succession over the age of 21. Under the new reign, that includes Queen Consort Camilla and Prince William, Prince Harry, and Anne's brother Prince Andrew, and now Anne's eldest daughter, Princess Beatrice, who will take the place of Charles once held. But Prince Harry lives in California because he chose to step back from a royal role, and Prince Andrew was forced to step back as a working royal due to his scandal. Now, there are calls for Parliament to change the law, which include Anne. She was a Counselor of State in the past while her brothers and Charles' children were young. Besides being hardworking, Anne is known for a lot of different things. She's a champion horse rider, like her mother, she's a lover of horses, but the late Queen focused on the racing side and Anne focused on the competitive riding or eventing, becoming a respected athlete along with her mounts. She also won a gold medal in 1971 and 2 silver medals in 1975 at the European Eventing Championships. So Anne is the president of the British Olympic Association and is a member of the International Olympic Committee, and she actually attends the games. She's helped organize the campaign to bring the 2012 Olympics to London, the summer of the late Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and Britain won a total of 65 medals. Among the other winners was Zara, which is Anne's daughter, who's also a champion horseback rider like her parents. At the 2012 Olympics in London, Zara won a silver medal as a member of the British eventing team.
The dark truth behind Queen Elizabeth's blue hand. The truth about the Queen's hand was recently revealed after she met Britain's new Prime Minister. Photos from the meeting were subsequently released to the public, with alarm immediately raised by what appears to be dark blue bruises on the Queen's right hand and possible decaying. Hundreds of worried royal watchers took to Twitter to express concern, with one writing, "What is going going on with the Queen's hand, all blue and purple. The Post has reached out to the Queen's press secretary for an official health update. However, several armchair medics weighed in on Twitter. The Queen seems to be suffering from circulation issues. Her hands are blue, one wrote. My mom and dad's hands went like that. I think it's to do with the skin becoming thinner with age and therefore more susceptible to bruises, another replied, trying to put the fans' fear at ease. The Queen's health has been in the headlines since October last year when she was spotted using a walking stick for the first time in 17 years. An insider said at the time that the assistance was for her comfort. Her Majesty was hospitalized later that month and cancelled a trip to Ireland before returning to royal duties. But let us know what you think is happening to the Queen and we will see you later. When will Prince Charles officially become king? After 70 years on the British throne, Queen Elizabeth II has passed away at age 96, which the royal family has confirmed on Twitter. The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King/Queen consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. So to explain it in simple terms, Charles is already king, and it happened the moment the Queen passed. According to University College London's Constitution Unit, the immediate transmission of monarch status comes from an old common law rule. A British coronation ceremony symbolically crowns a king or queen after they've already ascended the throne. British coronations have historically happened a few months after the passing of a previous ruler, so as to not overlap with the period of mourning. Queen Elizabeth II's coronation took place on June 2, 1953, roughly 4 months after she officially became queen. Because Charles became king the instant Queen Elizabeth II passed away, his crowning ceremony will commemorate an event that has already happened. In other words, he'd be king whether or not he ever had a coronation ceremony. The Queen has recently passed away at age 96 after she was seen with a black and blue hand when meeting Britain's new Prime Minister. Photos from the meeting were released to the public with alarm immediately raised by what appeared to be a dark blue bruise on the Queen's right hand and possible decaying. People then took to Twitter to express concern, with one writing, "What is going on with the Queen's hand, all blue and purple?" The Post has reached out to the Queen's press secretary for an official health update at the time. However, several medics weighed in on Twitter. The Queen seems to be suffering from circulation issues. Her hands are blue, one wrote. And it's important to note that the concerns came less than 3 months after a royal expert claimed photographs show that the Queen is fading away before our eyes, which sadly is now true. Her Majesty was even hospitalized in October last year and cancelled a trip to Ireland before returning to royal duties. In May, a Buckingham Palace statement revealed that the Queen would reluctantly miss a royal engagement due to mobility problems, and the decision was made in consultation with her doctors. With the Queen no longer alive, everyone is now mourning and many countries are honoring the Queen. Meghan Markle suddenly decided to not see the Queen. Members of the royal family have made an unexpected trip to Queen Elizabeth's Balmoral estate yesterday following the news that doctors are concerned for her health. But Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, was not among those who were en route to Scotland. Though it was previously reported that Meghan would be joining husband Prince Harry on the journey, a source had shared an update on her travel plans. Those family members who did travel to be by the Queen's side include Prince Charles, Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, Prince William, Prince Edward, Sophie, Countess of Wessex, and Prince Andrew. The monarch's daughter, Princess Anne, was already in Balmoral as she had scheduled engagements in Scotland. Buckingham Palace released a statement earlier yesterday about the monarch's current state, saying, "Following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision." Insiders did, however, emphasize that there was nothing malicious in Meghan's decision to not go to Balmoral. It was also said that Meghan was disinvited from the royal family. Prince Harry was too late to say goodbye to the Queen. Prince Harry unfortunately did not make it to Balmoral in time to see his late grandmother Queen Elizabeth II on Thursday before she passed. The Post has learned that Harry is now at the Scottish castle without his wife, Meghan, but sadly did not get to say a final goodbye. It appears much of his family also didn't make it in time to say their final words to the Queen. Meghan Markle's reps had previously said she would be heading to Scotland with her husband to see the late Queen, but later said plans changed because of the fluid situation. Insiders emphasized there was nothing malicious in her decision to not go to Balmoral. She and Harry were already in the UK, staying at their old home, Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, when the news broke of the Queen's condition. Prince William was seen behind the wheel of an official Range Rover arriving at the Queen's Balmoral estate Thursday afternoon, along with his disgraced uncle Prince Andrew. It appears they also did not arrive early enough to say goodbye to the Queen either. When would Meghan Markle become Queen? So technically, she can't ever be Queen because she isn't in line for succession. People on Reddit have even said, quote, "She has more of a chance of becoming the next pope. Harry is so far down the line of succession as to be irrelevant. In the unlikely event that he did come to the throne, Meghan would be Queen Consort because she is the king's wife." Another posted saying, "I would say the likelihood is about -100. The UK has a constitutional monarchy, as passed on from generation to generation within the royal family, from Queen Elizabeth to Prince Charles to Prince William to Prince George. If they pass away, it goes to Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. That's the main branch of the monarchy. Harry is a side spring. He is unlikely to ever be king. In the event that it would happen, his wife would be queen consort, not queen. So for you Meghan fans that were hoping she would one day become queen, I hate to break it to you, but she won't. Unless every single person in the royal family passed away except for her, then I guess she would become queen, but that is very unlikely considering like 12 or so members of the royal family would have to pass away. But that is all. Let us know what you think and we will see you next time. King Charles III's swollen hands create health concerns. King Charles sparks a wave of concern over his red and swollen fingers after Queen Elizabeth's passing. A senior lecturer at the University of Chester issued this shocking insight into Prince Charles's health. He began by telling the Daily Star that even though loads of conditions could lead to King Charles' swollen fingers, there are even more that have not yet been brought up. While talking to the publication, Dr. Nye was quoted saying, "Oedema is a condition where the body starts to retain fluids in the limbs, normally the legs and ankles, but also in the fingers, which causes them to swell. Oedema is a common condition and mostly affects people over the age of 65, as the ability for fluid control is restricted." Before concluding, he also added there certainly aren't any immediate health concerns to conclude from the swollen fingers and is most likely a sign of his age. The king has, however, taken a lighthearted approach in the past, having jokingly referred to himself as having sausage fingers in a letter to a friend after his son William, the Prince of Wales, was born. He wrote, "I can't tell you how excited and proud I am. He really does look surprisingly appetizing and has sausage fingers just like mine," as quoted in the biography Charles, the Man Who Will Be King. Queen Camilla Bowles copies Princess Diana's look. Camilla and Prince Charles, or King Charles now, tied the knot in 2005 but appeared for the first time publicly as a couple in 1995. This was the same year that Duchess of Cornwall divorced her first husband Andrew Parker Bowles. It was also a few years after Prince Charles' separation from Princess Diana. When Camilla stepped down as the official girlfriend of the Prince of Wales, she wore an outfit which shocked many royal fans. The news about Prince Charles and Camilla's relationship became public in 1994. In light of this, Diana attended a public event dressed in what would become known as the revenge dress. It was a beautiful and bold black piece with bare shoulders and a skirt slit. She looked amazing and many applauded her for taking the news of Charles's affair off the front pages of all the newspapers. This was on the same day that Prince Charles publicly confirmed that he had been unfaithful to her during their marriage. The Express noted that Camilla was photographed at London Ritz's hotel in a shoulder-bearing black dress similar to Diana's. This, however, wasn't just the only time she copied her.
Oprah Winfrey caused tension between the royal family. Oprah Winfrey has been slammed for saying she hopes that burying the dead will help Prince Harry and Meghan Markle finally make peace with the royals, 1 year after the couple's explosive interview with the host appeared to contribute to the family's falling out. The pair's relationship with the royal family, particularly Prince William and his wife Kate Middleton, with whom Harry and Meghan were pictured with on Saturday in the wake of Queen Elizabeth, appeared to fracture after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex announced that they were stepping away from their royal duties and relocating to the US in early 2020. They made a series of bombshell accusations, including that an unnamed royal visited concerns of conservations about how dark Archie's skin would be before he was born, and that Kate once made Meghan cry over a flower girl dress before her wedding to Harry. The TV personality 68 on Sunday spoke about how Prince Harry and Prince William stand, and she said that she feels that she hopes the tragic loss of their grandmother could bring them back together.